I have had the joy of being a parent for 16 years. Now, I know that is not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things, but through my job, I also have the privilege of working with members of our church who have been parents for decades. They're now grandparents, even great-grandparents, and they love to talk about their parenting journeys. I also get to work with people who are at the early stages of parenthood, just bringing their tiny babies home from the hospital, wondering where to even start. Or here's my favorite. I love to stand outside our worship areas for 10 to 15 minutes after the service starts to welcome the haggard-looking families who rush in from the parking lot, usually with toddlers or preschoolers, and to remind them that it is 100% okay that they are late to church. And it's also okay to simply feel proud of getting themselves out the door that morning. Now, as we begin, I promise you, I am no expert in the art of parenting. Just ask my kids and they will confirm this. But as a person who cares deeply about the faith of the next generation, I think it's too important to not talk about the ways our faith as people who happen to be parents intersects with our role as parents. Now, I do want to pause for a minute to acknowledge that that not all of you who are watching are parents. I know that some of you desperately want to be parents, and your journey has a lot of pain that I will never fully understand. There are some of you who have lost children, and you're hurting as you think about the role of a parent coming to a quick end for you. There are some of you who will choose never to be parents, and that is okay too. Please know that I see you, I hear you, and I honestly hope and pray that we can each learn from each other's stories and walk with one another in our respective journeys. Well, today, I want to suggest that being a person who connects faith with parenting requires a whole lot of candor. What is candor? Well, it's being open, it's being sincere, being frank and to the point. And I want to suggest that embracing this approach involves 3 mindset shifts: having candor with our parenting partner or partners, having candor with our kids, and having candor about our faith. So what do I mean? Well, think first about the people you parent with. A husband, a wife, a partner. Maybe it's your parents who are helping you out if you're a single mom or a single dad. I've learned a lot from the people in my life who are willing to be candid with each other in those types of partnerships. That doesn't mean that you have to be a jerk. I think sometimes candor or straightforwardness gets a bad rap. But I believe it's possible for us to have tender candor. Oh, try saying that 3 times fast. Maybe it would be easier if I said it this way. We should practice mindfulness when we use candor to be open and sincere with one another. We can ask questions and admit when we don't know the answers. We can be honest with our parenting partners because we mess up. We will mess up. I think there are also ways that we can have candor with our kids. And that doesn't mean we have to suddenly become best friends with our kids or to talk to them like they're adults. I think every developmental psychologist would tell us that as our kids grow, they need to learn from caring adults who model things for them, who teach them things, who also set boundaries with them. But our kids also have to see that we're human, just like they are. We don't have to pretend to be the Hollywood version of a parent who we think we should become. I once had a teenager tell me that she just wished, her one wish, was that her mom would get off Facebook because she posted pictures that made it seem like everything was great at home when in fact it wasn't. Ouch. I couldn't help but reflect on the times that I did the same thing and wondered what messages my kids take from that. Parenting with candor means we do a certain amount of truth-telling for our sake and for the sake of our children. And finally, when it comes to faith, what if having candid faith is what God wants for all of us? When my husband and I got married, we happened to also be working in the church. And no doubt, we are proud to do this work. We feel like it's an honor that we get to do work that God has called us to. But when you get married, and you work in a church, you end up with a whole lot of churchy gifts. The same thing happened when we had kids, actually. And don't worry, we did get the practical things like bath towels and baby blankets along the way. But I'm not kidding. We also ended up with a lot of plaques for the wall that had crosses or Bible verses on them. And many of them were beautiful, don't get me wrong. But I wonder if sometimes we think that's what faith is. A Bible verse that we look at on our walls, waiting for that day when our faith actually feels as easy as that verse about being steadfast and courageous, or experiencing love that bears all things and never ends. So what could candor faith look like? Well, in Psalm 13, David writes these words, "How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me?" This is the prayer that David writes to God. But it's not just a prayer with so-called churchy words that skim over his feelings. It is candid. It shows us that plain spoken honesty can be a part of our faith, just like it has been a part of the faith story for generations. We're free to have prayers that describe to God exactly how we're feeling, even when that feeling is confusion or hopelessness. So what could candid parenting and candid faith look like for you? What could it mean for your relationship with your parenting partner, your relationship with your kid, your relationship with God? If you got rid of the platitudes on the wall decorations, if you tossed out the Hollywood version of what you think parenting should be, and you cut right to the chase, naming that sometimes things are hard, acknowledging that you don't always have to have the answers, and committing to honestly and open-handedly continuing to move forward.